I'm Dr. Shelley Joe, and I'm the chairman of the Alliance. Glad to have you guys here on this beautiful summer day. I love summer. It's my favorite. Oh, but anybody have anything they want to talk about until she comes back? If you're not a member of the Alliance, we'd love to have you be a member. Okay, so while we're here, I'll just talk about why you want to join the Alliance. Especially if you're a practitioner, because as a practitioner, you get to have your name in the directory, so you can promote, you can speak, and it's $120 a year as a practitioner, so that's like $10 a month. It helps us because we are a nonprofit, and we want to spread the word about how we can help people who are in addiction. I come into this not because I wanted to be in this world, but I got in here because I have my own daughter who struggled with addiction starting at age 15.
There we go. So
So
sorry. Huh?
can you hear us now?
I can. And I
Yes?
apologize. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Ah, yes, 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 yes.
Oh,
Wonderful.
excellent. Okay, I'm going
Okay.
to just get my little presentation ready for you all. It's so nice to meet you. I was looking into
Hi.
the work you're doing in the world, and it's amazing.
Well, Caroline, I'm excited I'm Dr. Shelley Joe, and I get to be the one who introduces you. So while you're getting set up, I will tell everybody about who you are. How's that?
Excellent.
Okay. So Caroline Allen is a health survivor, mineral expert, and educator on a mission to shift the way we think about cellular health. After a demanding career in the high-tech corporate world left her physically, mentally, and energetically depleted, Caroline began a personal journey to reclaim her health. That path led her to the world of plant-based minerals and their profound ability to help the body restore the natural balance. Her transformational experience sparked a deep dive into the science of minerals and human physiology. Caroline explored microbiology, molecular and cellular biology, agricultural soil science, and plant decomposition to understand why minerals are essential and how they truly work in the body. Through that research, she became a passionate advocate for the power of humic and fulvic, fulvic
Albeck.
substances. It is okay, fulvic. I was like, I don't know that I've never heard that word. Okay.
Yeah.
Substances, nature's way of supporting energy, detoxification, hydration, and vitality at the cellular level. Now, as co-founder and CEO of Beam Minerals, Caroline's all in on sharing the vital knowledge with the world. Affectionately known as a mineral geek, Caroline is celebrated for her rare ability to explain complex scientific concepts in clear, relatable terms. Her common sense approach, backed by solid science, leaves audiences empowered and inspired with simple, actionable steps to support their own wellness and journey. And it's always powerful that most of us come because of life experiences. So I appreciate you being willing to share your experience with us and what you know and your knowledge. And I'm going to turn it over to you. So go ahead, Caroline.
Thank you. And this particular subject is very close to my own heart just because we've had several people that we've lost in our family due to substance abuse. So really excited to get into this with you. What I'm going to do is share my screen. And my thought is that what I want to do is take you guys through a little journey. And I recognize that most of you guys you're the real experts in the world of addiction. But what I want to do is connect the dots between mineral depletion and deficiency and substance abuse and the effects of substance use on minerals in the body. So really what I hope to do is actually change your paradigm of thinking about the body. Something which I think when people go into studying recovery naturally happens because it's such a systemic issue. And now we get to just go like underneath all of it and look at the foundation, which is minerals. I'm going to leave some time at the end for questions. So I'll probably try to go for about 45 minutes. And some of the slides are fairly detailed. I'm not going to go through all of the detail of every slide. I'm going to talk through them, and then because you're recording this, you'll also be able to review it in more depth, each of the more detailed slides, because I do want to give you guys opportunities to ask questions. There usually are quite a few. And as was said, so my own journey was through intense ill health. I had many, many health issues. And just from adding minerals back into and not just like one or two minerals, like a pill of magnesium or potassium or calcium, whatever, but full spectrum fulvic and humic mineral complexes, I restored my health. And it was because of that experience that I did all this research and am now just extremely passionate about bringing this information to all sorts of different audiences. Okay, so let me share. Let's see here. I'm going to share my second screen here, and then I'm just going to start this slideshow. And we will play from start. So just confirm that you can all see the slideshow. Just maybe give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to talk through a context shift, and this is about looking at the body systemically as a system of cellular systems. The next thing we're going to talk about is what I call the hidden hunger. That's not a term that I created. It's a term that was coined by the World Health Organization to capture the prevalence of mineral deficiency in just the general population throughout the world. We're going to talk about mineral depletion and specifically with substance use disorders and talk through some of the clinical evidence of the connection between those. And it's not just a linear kind of connection. It's actually a systemic connection, one that feeds on itself. From the research and work that I've done, I truly believe that the rise in addiction is actually a result of the rise of this hidden hunger. Then we're going to talk about effective mineral replenishment, how it actually works in the body. There's a lot of misunderstandings about how minerals actually work in the body and how they actually get replenished. So we're going to learn some about that. And then specifically, I'm going to introduce you to plant-based minerals, these humic and fulvic mineral complexes, mainly because they are the simplest replenishment method for use with recovery. I'm going to do a very short, I want to be absolutely clear. This conversation is educational. It's not about my company, but I am going to introduce you to the kind of flagship products of our company, mainly because they are such a simple and easy replenishment tool for people who have gut issues and all sorts of difficulty with taking many, many pills and things like that. Okay, let's get started. So the first piece is to shift our perspective of the body. And we've been taught to look at the body as parts and pieces and tissues and, reproductive systems and the skeleton and lymphatic systems, cardiovascular systems, all of these parts and pieces. And as soon as we get into an issue as widespread and affecting so many systems as substance abuse, it gets really hard to try and figure out where to start and how to even go about solving all of the issues that occur. So it's really not that useful when that perspective is not that useful in dealing with systemic issues like substance use disorder. So The different view is to actually go underneath everything. And this was the hugest aha I had in my research that I did, which is to recognize that every part of the body is made of cells. And all of those cells, every single cell has an intended function, and it is doing its best to actually fulfill its function. But it has to have energy to do it. So the adult human has approximately 37 to 150 trillion cells that make it up, depending on the size of that particular human. But the thing about those cells is that they are all powered by these, they're called organelles inside the cells called mitochondria. I like to describe these like campfires. So if you were going to build a campfire, you would need some heavy fuel like wood to burn, and you would need some tinder, something that lights easily, and that's like the amino acids in your body. And then you would need a match, something to turn those things, that fuel into energy. And that's what the mitochondria represents. It's the match. It's the thing that allows your body to make energy out of the fuel. The fuel so the mitochondria generate nearly all of the energy in the body. There is some energy that's not generated by the mitochondria, but the substantial amount of energy in your body is generated inside your cells, inside the mitochondria, using the fuel of minerals and amino acids. But I want to give you a sense of scale of it because most people have no concept. So on the back of my hand here, in a single cell, there's maybe 1 to 200 mitochondria. In my heart, in one single cell, there's 5 to 8,000 mitochondria. So that's 5 to 8,000 little campfires that are being lit constantly, moment by moment, to generate enough energy to keep my heart pumping. And in the brain,
I
in
haven't
one
seen an
single,
email from Paycom on mine since yesterday.
I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry, I might be.
oh, I'm sorry. Maybe you should mute if no problem. I just wasn't sure if you wanted me to respond to you. Um, so in one brain, in a single brain synapse, you could have up to 2 million mitochondria. So the reason I give you those numbers is to understand that the amount of tiny energy units, they're called ATPs, that are being generated via these tiny little campfires inside your body from moment to moment is phenomenal. It's actually, you can't really conceive of it. It's so many. But what is that fuel? And that fuel is minerals, and it's not just 1 or 2 or 5 minerals that most people have thought of or heard of or maybe taken in an electrolyte stick pack, but it's like 18 minerals, macro minerals, and micronutrients that your body doesn't like just want to have. It absolutely has to have them. And in fact, without them, you will expire in a few hours, completely expire. So these minerals are the heavy fuel, like the wood in the campfire, and the amino acids are the tinder. Your body makes a lot of amino acids. Some come from the outside as well, but you can live much longer without bringing in amino acids from the outside, but you can only live for a few hours without minerals. So to give an understanding, so we talked about minerals as the fuel for energy generation, but they are also cofactors for every single biosynthesis process in the body. Every single biosynthesis process in the body requires one mineral or multiple minerals. So without minerals, what you have is major dysfunction in many, many critical systems in the body. The other thing that minerals are is the structure. They're actually the structure of the entire universe. If you look around you, if you're in a room, if you're driving, if you're walking, all of the structure in the universe is minerals. And in fact, all of the structure in your body is minerals. If you took all of the water out of your body, amazingly, you would be a little pile of minerals, a fairly small pile of minerals. So I give you that so you can begin to understand the fundamental and foundational nature of minerals, not only for structure, for biosynthesis, for energy production, but they're like the thing that pulls everything in your body. They carry all of the electrical impulses for neurology, etc. They are so fundamental to activities in your body. And one of the things that's important to recognize is that your body absolutely has to have a full spectrum of minerals. All of the minerals listed here aren't just minerals that would be nice to have, but you absolutely have to have them for certain biosynthesis processes, for certain enzyme production, for certain protein production, for hormone production, for reproductive hormones, for adrenal function, for neurological neural synapse, the processes in your brain, cognition. So all of these minerals are needed. Now, on the left side, we have macro minerals. These are minerals that your body uses a lot of. And we're going to talk a little bit about those because there's some interesting things to recognize about them. And then on the right side, we have micronutrients. And micronutrients, we call them micronutrients because you need very small amounts, but you absolutely have to have them. And as you can see, there's many that I'm sure some of you may have never heard of, like molybdenum, vanadium. I mean, did you ever know that you needed manganese? Maybe you've heard of copper, but do you know if you actually get it through the foods that you eat? So now we're going to talk about, even before substance use, we're going to talk about the prevalence of mineral deficiency just in the general population. That's all of us here today. We have several problems that are affecting the amount of minerals that we get in our body. And it's really why we have this hidden hunger problem. And what is a hidden hunger? The hidden hunger is that feeling that just something is missing, that thing that has you reach for the piece of candy in the afternoon when you feel the slump, the thing that has you reach for the bag of chips because you just need some crunchy, salty thing. Because what do hungry cells crave? They crave salt and sugar, something easily accessible that they can utilize quickly. It's also the thing that has you open up the fridge after eating a full dinner, because you just feel like, oh, just that one, I just need that one more thing. I don't quite know what it is. And why is that? It's because you sadly cannot eat enough food today to get all of the nutrition that you need. And why is this? It's because I want to help you connect the dots about this concept that people talk about, like, oh yeah, our food isn't nutritionally dense. It doesn't have the minerals or the nutrients that we need anymore. Why is that? And so I'm going to give you a really quick 101 about the way the Earth's ecosystem works. Because our bodies are actually part of the Earth's ecosystem. We work like an ecosystem. Our bodies are more like a forest than they are a car. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So the structure in plants is created with minerals. Remember, I said minerals are all the structures. So when a plant grows, it grows in the soil and it absorbs minerals and nutrients through its roots. And as it grows, it uses that material for structure and also for energy generation so it can grow. It's the same whether it's a tiny little pea shoot or a huge California redwood tree. Now, in nature, what happens is the plants grow and ultimately they die. And when they die, they actually slowly decompose. And as they decompose, they release their mineral content back into the soil. The problem is that we cultivate, so we grow plants in soil, we harvest them, we take them away from where they were grown, we do all sorts of things to them, and we ultimately dispose of their waste far from where they were grown. And we've been doing this for hundreds of years. And there, in fact, in 1936, there was a man who brought a paper to the US Congress talking about the crisis of our soils and mineral depletion. And what have we done about it since 1936? Absolutely nothing. And in fact, we've done things that are deleterious, which is we use glyphosate, which kills microbial life in the soil and ultimately depletes minerals from the plants and from your body once you actually get them into your body. So it's a big problem, this idea of growing plants in soil and never getting the minerals back into the soil. It's like having a bank account. You just keep doing withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal, and you never start doing deposits. And it actually even happens in your backyard garden. And I talk about this a lot with people who think they're eating really healthy. They've got, been growing for 10 years in the same tiny plot of land in their backyard garden. I'm like, you need to get minerals back into that soil so that the nutritional density of the foods you're growing organically are also giving you the nutrition that you need. This is a sad fact. To get the same nutrition from an apple that your grandfather ate, you have to eat 6 to 7 apples today. 6 to 7 apples today. So it's a huge difference. And what it actually means is you can't eat enough volume to get all the minerals you need. So you need to learn how to replenish minerals in other ways. The other problem that we're faced with is what I call our water problem. And that's that many, many people are drinking filtered and distilled water or bottled water from the store. It has no minerals in it. And the problem with filtered and distilled water is it's empty. It has no minerals in it. When you put distilled and filtered water into your body, you know what it does? It actually grabs minerals from your body and carries them out. So it doesn't actually absorb and assimilate into your cells where you experience hydration. Instead, it actually starts binding and pulling minerals out, because that's what the water molecule does. It's a carrier molecule, and it's meant to work with minerals everywhere on Earth, everywhere in the universe, actually. So that's a big problem, and it ends up with this hidden hunger. And I call this the health issue of our age. So it is, and truly, it is, in my mind, from the work that I've done and the research I've done, I see that it is potentially a huge cause of addiction in our system. So people are already depleted, they're already craving, and they have cognitive issues. We're going to go through lots of different issues. You're going to see how fundamental minerals are to so many things that are related to just general health, let alone issues associated with substance use. I want to talk through the clinical evidence so you can understand that there are actual studies. And I want to completely respect that you guys are the experts in the world of addiction and substance use. So please do not take anything that I'm saying. If you already know this, that's fantastic. I'm just going to fill in the blanks in case there's anybody who hasn't connected those dots. So the core hypothesis is that substance use disorder is strongly associated with these profound vitamin and mineral depletions that start with just the general hidden hunger. But because of substance use, they get even more intense, and they actively compromise neurocircuitry, amplify cellular stress responses, exacerbate emotional instability, and severely hinder clinical recovery pathways. What I posit with my presentation is that if you can get minerals into your people who are in recovery, it can support them substantially. Let's keep going. Thank you. So the commonly, and you know, you saw the list of the 18 minerals that your body needs, and there certainly are effects for those minerals as well. I'm not going to go through every single one of these because you'll be able to go through and read them specifically. But magnesium, zinc, calcium, potassium, selenium, phosphorus, these are the top dogs that get really hit with alcohol, with opiates, with methamphetamine, and even with marijuana, cannabis. So all of those things severely affect these minerals in the body. And each one of them is very, very important to specific aspects of your physiology, of the body's physiology, and specifically to things that show up in people who are struggling with substance use. We'll go into them a little bit here. So let's first talk about alcohol. So regular drinking, it depletes particularly phosphate, calcium, and potassium. And one of the things that I want to explain to you is calcium and magnesium have a very close relationship. The body often doesn't recognize, thinks that magnesium is calcium. So if you have too much magnesium, as an example, the body may say, oh, I should stop releasing calcium because we've got too much, and it actually can get confused at times about what it is seeing. So you end up with all these challenging problems when you end up with depletion. So calcium and magnesium are closely related with thyroid hormone production, with the regulation of those. So ultimately you end up with interference of the thyroid function, which we know affects mood, can create depression, anxiety, irritability, and brain fog. Now, when I do just a general mineral presentation, and I often will have people go through like a little quiz about how they're feeling related to what their level of mineral depletion is. And people don't recognize that depression, anxiety, irritability, and brain fog could be anything related. They would not even have any idea that that would be related to mineral deficiency. But the fact is, it is. And then you have longer term physical consequences like the fatigue, weight fluctuations, muscle cramps can be really big, and heart or irregular heartbeat of lots of different types of heart issues. I'm sure you see all of these in your patients. We're going to have lots of opportunity to talk more about this if you have specific questions. So now, specifically with minerals and opiate use, this issue of calcium and magnesium really shows up. And so you have lowered calcium, the opiate, the duration. So the longer that a person uses opiates, the significance of the calcium loss becomes greater and greater, and same with the magnesium loss. So again, you have these long-term uses of opiates ultimately show up with this irregulation of zinc and iron, all of the functions that zinc and iron are related to, as well as chromium, which we know has to do with blood sugar and insulin resistance. So you can see that each one of these minerals, they're not just like, like something, yeah, I should go take an iron pill once in a while. No, these are critical. They are critical to major functions that will support or lower recidivism if you can get these minerals into the body in a way that the body can actually utilize. Let's keep going. How am I doing on time here? Okay, I'm pretty good. Let's keep going. So now we'll talk about methamphetamine. So, and I'm sure that you guys are the experts and you recognize this intense neurological deficit that occurs with extended methamphetamine use and how hard it is for people to come back into any kind of balance. And because of the neuronal, the cell death that they've experienced in their cortical, in their cognition. So, in their neurology, excuse me. So I want to mention this is the first time that I've given this presentation. So thank you for your patience as I endeavor to communicate all of these connections to you. The challenge that we end up with long-term use of meth is how to actually rebuild the neurological system. And what I'm trying to help people understand is that minerals providing the foundation, the minerals are the foundation for cellular health in the body. And if we can start there, we can actually have a much greater impact in a shorter period of time to support people and beginning to come back into homeostasis and some natural function. Even cannabis has long-term effects. There's a study done in 2017 about bone health and mineral and cannabis use. So, you know, I know cannabis can even be used to support people who are coming off more intense drugs, but it does have long-term negative effects in the body. So this is still being studied, and many of these studies are fairly new. 2017 is, you know, we've got some that it's pretty, it's been around for a bit, but it is something we have to think about as well. Let's keep going. So the direct effects, and magnesium is one of the biggest effects. So when people use alcohol at an intense level, they excrete magnesium 250% faster than normal. And and people who are really using a lot of alcohol now, their gut is completely in dysfunction. Their gut microbiome is in imbalance. They struggle to eat well. And the lining of their guts becomes inflamed. It doesn't work well for absorption. So all of they struggle with reduced absorption. And then ultimately they end up with this chronic magnesium depletion, which affects key organs. It affects cognition. It affects bone health. So many things. I mean, magnesium is, I'm sure you know, one of the most prevalently used minerals in the body. Calcium, potassium, magnesium, zinc, selenium. These are kind of the ones that I say are the top. We talk about phosphorus because phosphorus is key to bone health as well. So the direct effects of zinc and zinc is so important to so many functions in the body. And if you start reading about micronutrients and different systems in the body and what minerals they utilize, zinc comes up almost more than any other mineral. Even though it's not a macro mineral, it's a micronutrient, and in fact, it's a heavy metal. So one of the important things to recognize about something like zinc is you don't want to take too much because, and this is what happened actually during the pandemic. So lots of people heard that taking zinc will up-level your immune system. They took way too much zinc and they actually ended up with zinc toxicity because it is a heavy metal. So this is the thing I'm going to talk to you about minerals and how they work together, because this isn't like a car, like, okay, I've got to take a lot of magnesium, I've got to take a lot of this and that. It doesn't actually work like that. So we'll get into that. So again, I'm not going to talk through all of these details. You'll get this and you can review it in more detail. But zinc is extremely important. So I do want to talk through this one a little bit, because this is the piece that I recognize is the connect what I so there's this piece when I talked about the way plants grow in soil and they gather minerals and then ultimately they die and decompose and they give their minerals back to the soil. And this is what I call the sustainable loop that nature relies on. Now, there's also a sustainable loop in the body, in the human body. So you take in food, you take in minerals, your body digests, absorbs, and assimilates those. They're utilized for biosynthesis, they're utilized for structure, they're utilized for energy production. And then ultimately, you excrete whatever you don't need, you eliminate the excess, and then you take in more minerals. And this is a natural cycle. So when you have a break in the cycle, that's related to substance use, where suddenly you have a huge amount of utilization of something like magnesium that throws the whole ecosystem into imbalance. The question becomes, how do you stop this negative cycle of depletion, which leads to all of these pathways for craving, which leads to more substance use, which leads to more depletion, which continues the cycle? And how do we support the return to homeostasis of the entire system? And that's the biggest piece, that if you took nothing from this presentation, it would be a recognition that there are ways to support an entire ecosystem that are different than the historical or conventional ways we think of medicine, which is we have an input and it affects a particular symptom and we have an output. Supporting ecosystems actually is very different. So let's keep going. Thank you. Thanks for your attention. So I want to talk about restoration of cellular health in the body. This is at the most fundamental level, underneath all of the symptoms, underneath all of the organs, all of the tissues, all of the biosynthesis processes. Underneath everything, we have single cells trying to fulfill a specific function that they were intended to fulfill. And we want to support them in doing their job so well that the whole system begins to kind of come into this natural balance. Hello, there we go. So I'm going to talk to you about how minerals are utilized in the body. So first, for minerals to be utilized in the body, they have to be brought in from the outside. They all come from the outside. Next, they have to be broken down in the body all the way down to their ionic molecular components. That's very, very, very small. If you take, most minerals are made from rocks, shells, and bones. Now, the sad fact is your human digestive tract doesn't digest those well. It break them down very well. It only breaks down about 10% of what you take in pill form as a rock that was derived from rocks, shells, and bones. And what it actually does is creates it creates a concentration in your gut microbiome. And remember, your gut microbiome actually works more like a forest. It's not like a car. There's not like a tank for magnesium and potassium and calcium. Even though you look on the back of the supplemental facts and it says, well, you need to take 1,000 milligrams of whatever every day. Somebody said that once. It's not true, but somebody said that once. And so people believe, oh, I need to take 1,000 milligrams of magnesium, and they take a pill of magnesium and they throw it in their gut, and the gut goes, oh my gosh, this is a concentration. I actually have to eliminate a lot of this to bring this microbiome, this cellular microbiome of the gut back into a natural balance where things can function well. All the microorganisms, all of the beneficial bacteria, all of the fungi, all of the elements that exist in your microbiome to make it function properly. So these things don't break down very well. So this is one of the big problems with proper mineral replenishment is how do you bring minerals into the body in a way that doesn't create concentration, that is easily broken down, and ultimately is easily absorbed into the bloodstream. So first, it comes in from the outside. Second, it has to be broken down to the size that it can be absorbed. And then it gets absorbed into the bloodstream. But guess what? Those minerals don't do their job in the bloodstream. They have to be assimilated into the cells where the mitochondria can utilize them. Some are used in biosynthesis throughout the body for different things, but even those, usually it happens inside some sort of cellular process. So the first question you have to ask when you think about minerals and putting them in the body is how well does the material you're putting into your body break down in the human gut? Again, rocks, shells, and bones don't break down very well. Salts break down quite well. The problem, if let's say you're using like salt-based electrolytes, the stick packs with your patients, the problem is that you're trashing their gut microbiome. And here's the model. Your body is like the earth, and the digestive tract is like the earth's rivers and lakes. They are freshwater systems. Your digestive tract is a freshwater system. Your bloodstream, saltwater system like the oceans. In fact, it's very close to the salinity of the ocean. But when you put large concentrations of salts into the gut, it completely, and do it regularly, it trashes the gut microbiome, that microflora, microorganisms, all of the microbiome elements, they thrive in a freshwater system. You get plenty of salts from the foods you eat. And if you want to have salts that have trace minerals, you can use your, Himalayan salts, which will provide a little extra mineral content. But you don't want to use large concentrations. And we could talk about that for hours if you want. That's one of my big things. Let's keep going though. So then the next question you have to ask is how well does the material that you put into the gut that actually got broken down, how well does it absorb through the gut lining? And the problem that we have with people who are dealing with substance abuse is their gut lining is trashed. Now, if you look at these structures, these are called villi, and they're finger-like structures that line your small intestine. And they're lined with epithelial cells. And those cells are lined with receptor sites. And each one of those receptors is specific to a specific mineral or nutrient. That's what's so amazing. So you have a huge number of magnesium receptors and a much smaller number of selenium or zinc or vanadium receptors. And they're actually designed in certain ratios. Because if you think about nature, nature had to design a system that would allow the right formulation or the right ratio of minerals into the system to support balance and homeostasis. But when you have a gut that's so unhealthy because of all of the crap that has gone into that system, the people who are struggling with substance use have really hard time with absorption. So this is the other challenge that you have with, throwing a whole bunch of pills into somebody's gut. Not only does it not get broken down, but very little of it ultimately gets absorbed. And then finally, we have to ask, how easily do the molecules that do get into the bloodstream get assimilated into the cells? Now, one of the problems that is just becoming more well known is about cell membranes and the health of cell membranes. And one of the biggest problems with cell membrane health is oils that clog the cell membranes. So seed oils that they actually affect cell membrane permeability. And so even if you did get, so people who are very, very healthy, but they eat a lot of seed oils, They eat very, very healthy, organic, all sorts of stuff, right? But they struggle with feeling depleted because they're actually not absorbing. And we've done lots of different anecdotal studies with different people who come in. They eat well, they take electrolytes, they do all sorts of things to support their health. They're struggling with specific depletion symptoms. And when we actually test them using a particular testing paradigm called Oligoscan, which is an intracellular, it shows you how much minerals you've actually absorbed into your cells, we find they have deep depletions in several areas. So that's a sign that even though they're getting minerals into their system, they're not ultimately getting assimilated into the cells. So there's a lot of blocks and potential impediments to mineral replenishment. I want to talk about the difference between supplementation and replenishment. Supplementation is if you go down to your health food store and you look on the wall and there's all the bottles of pills and there's, literally the mineral aisle is filled and there's all sorts of different types of, you can get, magnesium gluconate or magnesium citronate. And you're like, I talk to people in the aisles. I'm like, how do you know what you need? They're like, I have no idea. My grandmother told me I need to take zinc, and my sister said I need electrolytes, and my doctor said I need to take some calcium, and my mother told me to take some chromium, and on and on. They've got like 4 or 5 or 7 pill bottles, and they're going to go home, and what's going to happen? It's not sustainable. So the challenge with the supplementation model is it's a mechanical modality. The idea is that based on supplemental facts that someone designed back in 1941, they were actually designed to understand what was the lowest level that humans of nutrients that humans needed to sustain life in case we had a huge breakdown of food production. What did we absolutely have to have? They weren't designed for optimal health. They were designed to just know, like, what's the basics. And they didn't take into account people's genetics, their epigenetics, their lifestyle, their eating style, their just stress levels in their life, their emotional state, how much they exercise. They didn't take into any of those things into account. This is just like the baseline. So it's really, you can't use supplemental facts or nutritional facts as a way to understand the amount of minerals that you need. The amazing thing is your body actually knows, and you can actually utilize a completely different system to get minerals into your body and to do it effectively. So again, supplementation isn't based on bioavailability. Most of these minerals that you take are made of rock shells and bones. They don't break down well, or they're made of salts, so they're creating imbalance in the gut microbiome and concentration. They're all creating concentrations of minerals which are not meant to be used in that way in ecosystems. And what do we end up is with a system that's really unsustainable, and particularly for people whose guts are messed up and you ask them to take a handful of pills 3 times a day, and then they just don't do it. And you're left going, darn it. I know this is going to make them feel better, but they just can't make themselves do it. Supplementation, one of the big things about supplementation, the idea that you can take 1,000 milligrams of magnesium or 800 milligrams of calcium and throw it in your gut and think that it's going to have a positive effect. But your gut, again, the way I like to describe it is if you think about your gut, it works more like a forest. If you took a wheelbarrow of calcium or magnesium or potassium and threw it on the floor of a forest, the plants in that area, the cellular life in that area would not thrive because it would be a concentration. And if you think about all on Earth, where there are concentrations of minerals or chemicals, cellular life does not thrive because cellular life thrives in balance. So the best replenishment for minerals utilizes the body's natural replenishment systems. It recognizes that minerals work together. This is called the simple mineral wheel, actually, or no, this is the complex mineral wheel. And it shows the relationships between all the minerals the body utilizes. Now, if you have to figure out which mineral you should take and which mineral you shouldn't take, or how much of each one of these based on these relationships, I'm telling you, and because those requirements change moment to moment, it's an extremely dynamic system. There's no way that even the smartest ChatGPT could figure out how much of any specific mineral you need at any time. So you have to look at the whole problem completely differently. And it's a system that supports balance within the entire ecosystem by bringing minerals into the system in a balanced way, pre-formulated in a balanced way. And I'm not talking about lab formulated. I'm talking about pre-formulated by nature, using natural source material that's already has all of the ratio of minerals your body needs in the ratios that your body utilizes. So that's what's amazing about what I'm about to introduce you to, which is something called plant-based minerals. It is the simplest replenishment method for all humans, and it's based on decomposed freshwater plants. So this is actually a forest floor. You know, we talked about plants growing in the soil, and they gather minerals from the soil to create all of their structure and for utilization for biosynthesis and for energy generation in the mitochondria. And then ultimately those plants die and decompose, and slowly over a long period of time, they decompose and they become minerals. They actually completely turn back into their base material. And when we talk about plant-based materials that are used for mineral replenishment in humans, we're actually talking about ancient decomposed rainforests. So about 65 million years ago, the Earth was covered with rainforests as far north as northern Canada. And a meteor hit the Yucatan and it killed 75% of all life on Earth in a few hours. And in that process, as those rainforests died and decomposed, they became a strata of earth that is incredibly mineral rich. And it includes what it actually is inside this material called humate are these two molecules. And they're complexes, they're mineral complexes. And one is called humic and the other is called fulvic. And they're utilized by every cellular organism on Earth. Your body actually already utilizes them. You get a very small amount from just breathing, walking out in a forest, from some foods that you eat. If you don't really wash them super well, there could be some humic and fulvic on them. And even in the plants that you eat, there will be some small amount of particularly fulvic. So they're two powerful tools for replenishment and detoxification. I'm going to talk to you about how they work. I hope I'm not going too long. I'm going to keep going so that we get through this. So let's talk about the fulvic minerals first, mineral complexes. There are, I do want to talk about just really quickly, there's lots of different ways you can get fulvic and humic. And the humic molecule is actually a larger molecule, and fulvic is actually part of the humic molecule. And these humic substances exist around the world. You may have heard of something called shilajit, and it's a tarry substance that happened from the decomposition of rainforests in the Himalayas. There's something called peat, which is a clumpy soil-like substance they find in the British Isles, again, from decomposition of rainforests that existed 65 million years ago in the area of the British Isles of the Earth. There's also substances in all of the continents in South America. Humate, the material that I'm talking about, is found in North America, and it comes from about 10 to 12 feet below the Earth. It's incredibly pure and clean. It's had no contact with modern pollutants, so it's really pure. But inside of humate, we have humic and fulvic, these molecules. And the fulvic molecule is the one I want to talk about first. First of all, the molecule itself, if you hold your hand in a fist, and that's the size of a cell, and you think of a head of a pin, the fulvic molecule relative to a head to your fist is the size of a head of a pin. It's an extremely tiny molecule. It's a very strong electrolyte molecule, and it holds in it all of the minerals the body needs pre-formulated in the ratios that your body uses. So when we talked about the lining of the gut and all of those, the way the lining of the gut is designed with ratios of mineral receptors, this molecule is actually designed with those same ratios of minerals. And when you think about it, in nature, it makes sense that nature would design something like this, because guess what? All cells, even a cell in a redwood tree at the mitochondrial level, it needs the same ratios of minerals that your cells need at a mitochondrial level, the same ratios, because we all came from the same place. So the interesting thing about the fulvic mineral complex, and this is why it's so incredible for mineral replenishment, is it is a built-in intracellular mineral and nutrient delivery system. When the fulvic molecule it hits up against a cell wall in your body, the body says, "Oh, I recognize this. This is fulvic," and it opens a channel. So it increases cell membrane permeability, and then it lets the molecule into the inside of the cell. And then the molecule does something that no other molecule can do on Earth. It changes its polarity. And if you imagine like a magnet with all these things connected to it, like metal shavings, say, and you could turn the magnet off and those things would drop off, that's what happens. It changes its polarity and it delivers nutrients into the cell. So this is and it's not just one magnesium molecule. It might be many magnesium molecules and many chromium molecules and zinc and all of those minerals in those pre-formulated ratios. So an incredible delivery system of a full spectrum of minerals pre-formulated in the right ratios, delivered directly into the mitochondria. It enhances energy production in the body substantially in a very short period of time. It also provides intracellular detoxification. So once that molecule has dropped off its bolus of nutrients and minerals into the cell, now it travels around inside the cell, picking up biowaste, toxins, heavy metals, spike proteins, and other viral detritus, things like nanoplastics, all of the free radicals that have gotten into the cell are causing oxidative stress, all sorts of toxic elements. And then it hits up against the cell wall opens, it carries those things out into the bloodstream, and then it changes its polarity again and it drops them into the bloodstream. And it just does this constantly, moving in and out of the cell, an intracellular delivery and system, bringing nutrients in and biowaste and toxins out of the cell. So an incredible support to cellular function throughout the entire body, even across the blood-brain barrier. So this incredible two-pronged support for recovery, which is replenishment plus intracellular detoxification of all of the toxins that have been stored in the body from substance use. Now we'll talk about the humic molecule. So the humic humic mineral complexes, if you hold your fist now, hold your hand in a fist and you think this is the humic molecule, and now you think of the head of a pin, head of the pin is your cell. So the humic molecule is much larger than a cell. It hangs out mostly in the gut and in the bloodstream. And it's an incredible, first of all, it also carries all the minerals that you need, that are needed in your body, but it actually utilizes them differently. One of the things that it does is that it acts like a magnet for heavy metals. And it actually moves through the system, gathering and binding, chelating heavy metals in the system. Now, the interesting thing about it, and it gathers biowaste, toxins, heavy metals, free radicals, nanoplastics, things associated with all sorts of graphene oxide, all sorts of different elements that the body needs to get rid of. It will even support homeostasis when you have a concentration of a mineral. Let's say you take a big bolus or a big pill of magnesium. Now you've actually got a concentration of minerals. The humic molecule recognizes, and I could talk into specific chemically how this happens. I won't go into it now, but it actually will bind to the magnesium, recognizing that there's a concentration all the way up to the point where it recognizes there's now homeostasis in the system, and then it will stop binding. That's the interesting thing. But ultimately, this humic molecule will bind to things. At a certain point, it becomes hydrophobic, which means that it will fall out of suspension and leave the body through all of the elimination channels, not just the urine and feces, but also sweat, saliva, earwax, tears, just sloughing off skin. It's an incredibly effective and gentle detoxifier. I think I've talked through most of these. So this is why I call humic Mother Nature's janitor. It's an incredible support for detoxification of the entire cellular system of the body, and a great tool to be used with people who are experiencing substance abuse, because they've got so many different imbalances, toxins, concentrations, all sorts of things. So to have a tool like this that works ubiquitously on so many different compounds in the body is a huge help. I'm not going to do a lot of talk about B minerals, but I want to talk about B minerals, particularly for use with people who are who are in recovery, because many people who are in recovery really struggle with gut problems and being able to even take medications and all of that. The beautiful thing about Electrolyze and MicroBoost is the humic supplement, or replenisher, we call it, and Electrolyze is the fulvic replenisher. They taste like water. They're also very easy to titrate. So the Electrolyze, the fulvic, you can take anybody. We've never had anyone have negative effects from taking the fulvic, the Electrolyze, because it just supports energy generation in the body, an incredible first step to take with somebody. If somebody's extremely toxic, you want to start with the humic molecule just a little bit slower, but because this is liquid and it tastes like water, it's extremely easy to start you with people who are very sensitive, people who aren't even in recovery, people with Lyme's disease, people with autoimmune, people with long COVID, mold exposure. Will often have them start with just a quarter of a teaspoon in a glass of water, and they slowly titrate up over time. So these are fantastic tools for use. I also do want to tell you guys, and if you're interested, feel free to contact us. And just so you know, for any practitioners who are interested in trying these themselves, we always provide a full set for people, and you can contact us here at bminerals.com/pages/practitioners and get in contact us, and we'll send you a set so you can have your own experience of them. I also have a book that I want to let people know about. It's called The Mineral Reset, and it takes all of the information that I've given you today. It's written in super simple language, very accessible. Could be a great tool for your patients who have any interest in actually learning about how their body works, because it's truly written for people who are just starting out. It's not written for a practitioner, but also makes it a very, very easy read for practitioners who want to get a whole wealth of information without having to read clinical evidence.